poppy. Please wear a poppy, the lady said, and held one forth, but I shook my head. Then I stopped and watched as she offered them there, and her face was old and lined with care. But beneath the scars the years had made, there remained a smile that refused to fade. A boy came whistling down the street, bouncing along on carefree feet. His smile was full of joy and fun. "Lady," said he, "may I have one?" When she pinned it on, he turned to say, "Why do we wear a poppy today?" The lady smiled in her wistful way and answered, "This is Remembrance Day." And the poppy there is the symbol for the gallant men who died in war. And because they did, you and I are free. That's why we wear a poppy, you see. I had a boy about your size, golden hair and big blue eyes. He loved to play and jump and shout, free as a bird he would race about. As the years went by, he learned and grew and became a man, as you will too. But your son, did he come home all right? A tear rolled down each faded cheek. She shook her head but didn't speak. I slunk away in a sort of shame, and if you were me, you would have done the same. For our thanks in giving is oft delayed, though our freedom was bought and thousands paid. And so, when you see a poppy worn, let us reflect on the burden borne by those who gave their very all when asked to answer their country's call, that we at home in peace might live. Then wear a poppy, remember and give.
We visited Great Yarmouth to see for ourselves the impact war had on our local area. We compared pictures from World War I to the real-life buildings today. Thousands of soldiers from Great Yarmouth and Galston lost their lives in battle during World War I. Zeppelin raids dropped bombs on the town. They destroyed many homes and killed several residents.
We went to the Great Yarmouth Library to start research on our local soldiers who died whilst fighting for us. We were very lucky to have access to the Great Yarmouth War Records, which started off our research.
We carried on our research at the Norwich Archive Centre, where we were able to get hands-on with maps and diaries from World War I.
We visited London to look around the Tower of London and also to see the 888,246 poppies on display. Each poppy represents one life which was lost during World War I. It was deeply emotional seeing all the poppies. The sheer scale of the number of lives lost was profoundly moving. Each one was an individual soldier with a story to tell and a family who loved them.
Amy, Matthew, Connor and Madison travelled to France and Belgium to visit the graves of some of the soldiers from Great Yarmouth and Galston who died in World War I.
Our first stop was the Southend Cemetery in Calais. Courtney and Chanel had been researching the life and experiences of Herbert Benjamin Chatton. There are 180 of these cemeteries just in Belgium. Mr. Scott showed us that every military cemetery has a book of remembrance. We looked in this book to find the biographical details of Herbert and to find exactly where his grave was located. When we found it, we laid a remembrance poppy cross. We wrote our names and our school on it. We also laid a photo of Herbert by the grave and took a photograph. We took a few moments to pay our respects.
Our next stop was Listentoke Military Cemetery. This was in a remote place, but we were really affected by the enormous number of graves there were. Around the cemetery there were fence posts, one for every day of the war. Each post had a tally on it of the number of soldiers in this cemetery who died on that day. search for Frank Bloom and find his chest. We also saw digital images of his registration papers and medals. His grave was harder to find among the thousands, but we kept looking in fading light until we found it, and again laid a poppy cross and paid our respects.
We visited Essex Farm Cemetery, where the poem In the Flanders Fields was written. We saw the grave of a 15-year-old rifleman, Valentine Strudwick. This made us very emotional and was hard to take in.
Lucas, our tour guide, took us to Reserve German Trench System, Bear Bum, near Wischat, on the East Salem battlefield. It was very muddy and a wet place to be. The experience gave us just a little insight as to how scary it would have been on the front line.
On the last evening, we attended the service of remembrance at the Menin Gate. Here there are 54,000 names of soldiers who died, but those bodies were never found. Each night the life story of one soldier is read out. We were proud to lay a wreath on behalf of Peterhouse CEVA Primary School.
And so, when you see a poppy worn, let us reflect on the burden borne by those who gave their very all when asked to answer their country's call, that we at home in peace might live. Then wear a poppy, remember and give.